Hey guys, welcome to another DOS Retro sound card review. This sound card is from Aopen. I don't have a specific model number, but it uses the Crystal CX4235 XQ3 chipset. Now in 1991, Crystal was actually bought out by Cirrus Logic, and you can find the same audio chip under a Cirrus Logic model number, the CS4235. So just looking at this card, we're definitely dealing with a budget model. We have very few components. We've got the chipset here, a few capacitors and a transistor, and there's an oscillator, but not much else is going on. And we can see a ton of optional components are actually missing. So we do not have a wavetable header, and we also don't have the IDE CD-ROM connector. There are also no jumpers to configure this card. So in terms of connections on the PCB, we have the usual CD-ROM audio connector here. This is where you use the audio cable to connect your CD-ROM drive to your sound card. And there are just two different types of connections. Another connector over here, the TAD, which is the telephone answering device. This is usually connected to a voice modem to make calls, but that's a feature very unlikely that you're going to use this these days. And on the back of the card, we've got an input for microphone and line in. The DOS mixer has sliders for these two inputs. We've got a line output, and this is our game port, which lets you connect a joystick or gamepad, but it is also the MPU for one MIDI interface. So you can connect an external MIDI device like a Roland sound canvas. And if you've got the right cable, you can use the joystick and the sound canvas at the same time. The MPU MIDI interface doesn't have any hanging note bugs, so that's always good to have. Okay, I think it's time to check out a few recordings. Let's listen to the FM quality first. So what do you think? Well, in Monkey Island 2, you could really hear it. There's something definitely broken with the FM implementation of this chip. Now I have two other sound cards with the same chipset, and they also do the same thing. And if you run a Google search and do a bit of research, you will find a lot of references that the FM implementation on this chipset is just broken and doesn't work very well. A real shame, because it doesn't sound too bad, but yeah, it's broken, and that's a real letdown of this chipset. But what about Sound Blaster, compatibility and quality? Let's listen to a few games.
I'm thirsty.
I don't think you should drink that. It looks bad for you.
Nonsense. It makes me feel great. Smarter. More aggressive. I feel like I could. Like I could. Like I could. Take on the world.
So that sounded a lot better. I couldn't really hear any DMA clicking going on. So this is a decent sound card for older Sound Blaster games that support the single cycle DMA mode. Now in terms of compatibility, all the Sound Blaster Pro games that have stereo, they worked fine, so that's also good. And I also have a compatibility list. I put it on the screen. These are all the games I tried, and every single one of those games worked flawlessly. So really good Sound Blaster compatibility. This Crystal sound chip is also compatible with the Windows Sound System standard. So that gives you 16-bit quality and 48 kilohertz compatibility in DOS games. And with this sound card, there's no need to switch the mode through software. It all gets automatically detected whether or not the game uses Sound Blaster Pro or Windows Sound System. So let's check out 2 recordings of the sound card with the Windows Sound System mode. And next up, we're going to have a look at software and drivers. I will put a link down below in the description to our website where you can download everything to do with the sound card that I used in this video. So that's the latest driver versions and also some other instructions with the AutoExec batch file. So now let's have a look at the DOS drivers and software. At first I thought this is going to be quite complicated because the installer only runs under Windows, and I actually installed Windows 3.11 to run the installer and see what happens. And all it does is it creates a directory called Crystal and it puts the drivers in there. So all you have to do is grab the latest Windows 98 driver pack and copy these drivers into the Crystal subdirectory and we're good to go. Now there are a couple of files here. In order to initialize the sound card, we're using the command cwd and then init to initialize our sound card, and that's really it. There is our sound card initialized. This will use the plug and play settings that the BIOS allocates to the card. If you want to overwrite this, there is a configuration file. It's called, there you go, cwdaudio.ini. Open that, and here you can change all the resources. So let's say I want to change my interrupt to 7. And let's say I want to change the port to 240. I can do that. Oops, give me a sec. 240, there we go. Let's save that. And then you run cwd init again, but with the /o command. It will then read that text file. And here we go, address 240 and interrupt 7. So it takes those settings. And all you need to do now is edit your AutoExec batch file, and somewhere in the beginning you just call that file. So it was in c/crystal/ and then cwd init.exe/o, and it will load those settings that we put into the text file. The mixer app is called cwd mix. We get a graphical user interface. You can use the keyboard or the mouse. So usually, let's do it with the keyboard, it's a bit easier. Usually I set it to something like this. I mute all the inputs. If you're using a CD audio cable, then you want to unmute this. And if you've got a line-in connector, maybe from a sound canvas or so, you can also unmute that. And when you're done, you hit, let me just change that and to CD, press save, and it will actually update the AutoExec batch file. So if we get out of here and we edit the AutoExec batch file, we can see the entry here at the top. So this is the these are master volume left and right. You can change the numbers in here as well. This is for wave. This is the line input. X equals 1. Not quite sure. I think that sets the input to line. That one is actually the MIDI, the FM. That's the CD input, and that sets the input to CD-ROM. Now X equals 1, that's actually the microphone. Now remember here. And that's really it. So it's fairly straightforward to set up this card. You can also put this into a little batch file and then just run it from the command prompt. So yeah, quite easy and straightforward to use these drivers. And the driver version is the latest one that I was able to find. So this is the version 2.841 for the mixer, and the initialization program is 2.841x. This is based on the latest Windows 98 driver package. So I think it's time to summarize the experience of the Crystal CX4235. It is a very highly integrated sound card. This is one of the later DOS sound cards. I really like the compatibility. All the games have worked just fine. It had no issues with stereo. It supports the Windows sound system without having to change anything in the software. We've got a decent MPU 401 MIDI interface that is bug-free. The software is really easy to use, and you can just put everything in a batch file and just initialize the card quickly through that. The big letdown, however, is the FM chip quality, and yeah, it is broken, unfortunately. It's a real shame. Otherwise, this would have been quite a good recommendation, but with the broken FM chip and also the missing wavetable header, yeah, it's a bit of a hard card to recommend. So it boils down to the price. If you can pick this up for cheap, $10 or $15, then yeah, look, it's workable. And also you might be interested in using this card to deactivate some of the resources and use it as a dedicated MPU 401 MIDI interface, maybe in combination with a Sound Blaster 16 that has a buggy interface, or you just need a game port, and you can also configure this card to just act as a game port. So yeah, not the best use for this card, but unfortunately it is what it is. And there you have it, guys. This is my opinion on the CX4235 audio chipset. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'm always eager to hear from you guys. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and you want to see some more sound card reviews, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the like or the dislike button, and share it with your friends. And otherwise, I shall see you soon with another one.